the Euro 2024 final has just ended. So here we go. I'm sad. My father's English, mother's French. So, my two teams have been disposed of by Spain. It's pretty frustrating. But Spain were fully worth it. Best team to watch in the tournament, most exciting team. And so worthy winners, and it's their fourth Euro win, which is pretty cool for them, obviously. I'm going to go over some of my thoughts. I took notes throughout the whole game. Might make a tactical breakdown video, but I will say right now, the tactical breakdown video that I made about the France-Spain semifinal was pretty in-depth, and zero of it passed the copyright on YouTube, which is frustrating, but it's kind of the risk I run with that I will put a ton of time into making a video and then it just won't pass the copyright. So that was also a tough thing for this Euro for me, but hey, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go over a little bit of this final, go through some of the things I saw. And really, unfortunately for England, this is as recurring of a theme as you get under Southgate, which is really, really unfortunate. Oh, thanks, Mike. That helps a lot to know. So, England, the biggest problem for England throughout this tournament has been their ability to wrestle back possession from teams when they are establishing it. England, everyone has talked about how they drop off too much. And if you drop off too much, you invite pressure, right? And top players are going to put you in difficult situations. It's harder to be aggressive defensively because you're more likely to give away fouls, get yellow cards, give away free kicks. All this stuff is a lot more challenging. Hello, Tosin, how are you? Can you hear me? I guess that's what I'm still wondering, if I'm talking to air or if I am actually speaking to all of you. So just tactically, England, the biggest issue I've had with them all tournament long is the fact that they press very poorly, and so it's kind of like they can't go press because they're bad at it, and they just leave spaces all over the field for opponents. And it's been that way since the very first match. It's continued all the way through the final. And it is the reason, in my opinion, why they ended up losing this game, at least before the 90 minutes were over. Because the second they equalized, you got a feeling like, okay, Spain are now rocked. Their confidence there is gone, because I think right after the goal happened, which was so early in the second half, right? I think it's 46-10 on the clock when Spain took the lead, and then they had an immediate chance right after through Dani Olmo, and then they really controlled the match until England were able to equalize. Cole Palmer, I mean, look, I'm a Chelsea fan, so seeing that was just fantastic. I loved it. But the big question for me was right after England equalized, what would they do? What would the approach be? Would it be to continue to step on it and see if you could put Spain under more and more pressure and get the winner? Or would they drop off? And I think England, they dropped off not because they did not want to go win the game, but they don't know what else to do. And the problem for England is that they are tactically poorly set up, in my opinion. And I know that this is not to just go at Southgate, but based on the players that he had available to him, he made a choice to keep a side that is destabilized. If you look at all of England's lineups throughout the tournament, they have never had a left winger. Saka's been the right winger. They have fiddled around with the midfield, right? You had Trent Alexander-Arnold at the start of the tournament, then Conor Gallagher, then it became Kobbie Mainoo. But the problem is that a guy like Dani Carvajal did not have any real defending to do for a large portion of the game. So he could go and help his midfielders, and England didn't have enough of the ball for that to even matter. So when England finally equalized, the big question was, can they step on the gas a little bit, force Spain into more errors, more turnovers, and be able to wrestle the ball back and create chances? Unfortunately, they dropped off, as I said, because it's the only thing they know how to do, and they're so unbalanced that they don't know how to press. And I wrote down one thing in my notes here. Bellingham is a big problem defensively. If you watch the matches, and I've watched every England game a couple times, I've watched them back. If you watch the matches, Bellingham, he struts around the midfield. He tries to cover space, but he does not follow runners. He does not press the ball quickly enough. And it just allows the ball to just move past him and to get from the player who he's supposed to be tight to. They just connect it to the next guy. And this, I think, was, if you watch the game back, you'll see this from Bellingham, especially there was one moment after England equalized where I don't remember who, Spain had the ball. They played it to one of their center backs. Cole Palmer went to go press. And as he's running, he's waving behind him like, come forward, support me. And Bellingham's the next guy back. And Bellingham just stands there. And by standing there, he just leaves, I think it was Fabian Ruiz or Zubimendi, wide open to just receive a ball that Cole Palmer could not stop from happening. And immediately Spain just get into England's end and are able to camp out there. And look, I think that because of the way Southgate set up this team from the very start of the tournament, there was no way you could really expect them with 10 minutes to play in the final to all of a sudden wake up, press very, very well, and force Spain into mistakes. Spain are too good of a team to just cough up the ball under minimal pressure. And the goal starts out, it's a very simple build from the back. I think it's a throw in out wide. Carvajal throws it sort of diagonally across the field back to one of the center backs, maybe Laporte. And they just go up and score just very, very easily, a few passes. And it's because England just backed off and let them go from their 18-yard box over half field with one or two passes. And look, I am a coach. This is a huge, huge reason why I look at games this way. The game state demanded that England be a little bit more energetic in defense and just be more on Spain, tighter to them, trying to force them to either go backwards or make errors because everyone's tired at this point in the match. And Spain have ridden a high of being ahead, and then it crashes as soon as Cole Palmer scores. You could see it in their faces. But England really did let them off the hook. And I think a lot of people will say, well, Southgate needs to change things in the moment. I think he did a good job today. Boldly brings off Harry Kane in the 60th minute, then brings off Kobe Mainoo, which I think was the right decision. But when I look at Southgate's choices, I wrote down that he should probably bring off Kobe Mainoo because at this point you need to attack more. So bring off Kobe Mainoo and put on someone who can play left wing or put someone on the left wing. You have to start pushing Spain back a little further. Of course, does this happen over the course of 10 minutes? A team like Spain can manage it. But what I'm getting at is that they needed a little bit more attacking balance. Two wingers on each side. Ollie Watkins is the 9 being able to run. And then the midfield has to work. And so you have Cole Palmer who's just gone in. Phil Foden ends up being substituted for Ivan Toney when it's really way too late. And England miss out. And it's really, Spain fully deserved this because when it became crunch time, 10 minutes to play, who's going to try and carry the game and go and win it? Spain were the ones that did that. Spain were the team that with 10 minutes to go said, we are going to take the risk. We're going to play the ball. We're going to try and advance it. And they're very good at this. I mean, they are so good at taking care of the ball, Spain, that you're in a tough spot. You're like, well, do we go and press, especially when it's 1-1, you're like, do we go and press them and possibly leave ourselves open? Or do we sort of sit off of them and see if we can hit them on the break? Well, England are a terrible team on the counterattack. And the reason why is, unlike a team like France or Spain, they don't have players that are lightning fast wingers who will hang out a little bit high that you give the ball to and can, go on a 40, 50-yard run, dragging the whole team forward. Saka is probably the most equipped to do this, but that's not really his game either. He's more of a connector. He's great 1v1, but not over, say, 40, 50-yard distances. That's really a Kylian Mbappe or Ousmane Dembele or Nico Williams or even Rafael Leao, that profile of player. And so England just didn't have the tools, and I don't think they had the structure in the way that they try and win the ball back to really trouble Spain. And this is why you saw Spain, I think, take advantage. I don't think this is something that Gareth Southgate could have been like, guys, press up higher. I don't think England in this iteration know how to do that. And look, if you want, you can go ahead and take a look at the videos that I made, the breakdowns of the game against Denmark and the game against Serbia and the game against Slovakia as well. England are so deficient in being able to press in groups and win the ball back. From a coaching perspective, it's some of the easiest stuff, like not allowing the opponent to receive the ball and turn and then just sort of creep towards them. It's like, if they receive the ball, they receive the ball, but do not let them just spin, face you, and look for runners. It's so dumb. And look, the high school team that we coach all the way down to the younger kids I coach, we always tell them, do not let players turn. And a lot of the time, the reason why you don't get super tight to a player who's receiving the ball is because do they have a combination available to them? Can they just flick the ball off to the side and go around you with a 1-2? But that is not what Spain were doing. Spain were just receiving the ball, turning, and then able to connect out to their wide players. And once you get Nico Williams or Lamine Yamal with the ball running at defenders, the whole entire picture becomes dangerous. And, you know, the goal that Spain won it on, and I'm going to have to watch it again. Obviously, I haven't seen it back yet, aside from the one replay. But it's a very straightforward move. They go up. Marc Cucurella ends up with the ball, plays a very good ball on the ground, and Stones and Walker and Gehi, they just got a little bit disjointed for a second, and Oyarzabal goes ahead and finishes, and Spain win the Euro. Going back a little bit in this game, though, because the first half was pretty fascinating. Not that it was thrilling, but it was pretty cool to see the way the game state went, and mostly because I think it was extremely predictable. Unless there was going to be a goal in the first half, what you saw was going to be this: England dropping deep, Saka dropping a little deeper. Look, England went with three, started with three in the back. That's what it said on the formation, right? It's a 3-4-2-1. But it actually turned into a back four when England were defending more or less. Shaw would drop into the back line, and Saka would operate more as sort of a wide midfielder helping back. But it went from a back three to a back four when England were defending. When they had the ball, unfortunately, it's a muddle, because unless Foden and Bellingham as 10s are going to be super productive in getting the ball and moving the other team around, you're not really hurting a team like Spain. And here's the thing about the lineups. England had four in midfield, right? You have Foden, Bellingham, Rice, and Mainu. And Spain have three. They have Rodri, Olmo, and Ruiz as they started, and then Zubimendi comes on at halftime. England outnumber Spain in the midfield. How do you make that count in a way that makes it so that you can face up and go forward as opposed to constantly going side to side? Well, I think that one of the issues we've seen all tournament is the two 10s tend to get in each other's way, whether it's Foden and Bellingham or sometimes Foden and Mainu. I think in the semifinal there was a moment where there were two or three moments where I saw Foden and Mainu sort of checking into the same space, making the same run. And when you see these things happen, not super often, but consistently, you realize the attacking ideas are pretty rough and off the cuff, right? And this was the same for England today. I thought that there were only moments where Bellingham was receiving the ball, turning, and facing forward. This actually, him doing that, created the equalizer against the Netherlands. Basically, he pressed up into the front line, made Dumfries have to make a choice between him and Malen, and then he drops in as Trippier went forward, gets the ball, turns, plays it up, and then it gets to Saka, who shoots, and, Kane, penalty, whatever. Jude Bellingham needs to be doing this a lot more, and especially if you have Phil Foden capable of doing that. It's just about moving the two holding midfielders for Spain, Ruiz and Rodri. What do they do? And then you've got Dani Olmo kind of on an island having to make a choice. And I just don't think England did a very good job of utilizing the 4 versus 3 they had in midfield. And as I've said, because you have no left winger, you're basically relying on, can Shaw get forward and give us width? Sure, but Shaw is not going to get the ball, put his head down, and run past Denny Carvajal. So Spain, I think from the very beginning of the game, they had this sense of security that nothing's really going to happen over on that side. We just have to make sure that this midfield block doesn't run the game. The way England play, they don't run a game anyways. I think their build-outs, their ability to possess the ball from the back through the midfield was pretty shockingly bad. Jordan Pickford having to hit a lot of long balls that were off. There was one in the second half that ended up creating a chance, I think, for Nico Williams. It's sad to see a team like England that is so studded with talent not play, cohesive football. And I think that's a real indictment on Southgate, but also just the overall plan that he and his staff put together. And it just, from the very beginning of the tournament, felt like patchwork to figure it out. Spain, I want to give them some flowers. They deserve it. Obviously, they're the winners, so we have to talk about them. It's their fourth European title after they doubled up back in 2008 and 2012, and I forget when the other one they won is, maybe like 84. Spain were awesome this tournament because they were so simple. You look at a team like England with a 3-4-2-1 that turns into a back four, and I love all these changes and rotations, but there is something to be said for rolling out a lineup that makes sense based on the personnel you have and just letting those players execute the way they know how. So let's take a look. The back line is very simple with Carvajal. They decided Cucurella instead of Grimaldo. I would imagine that's because Cucurella is a little bit more solid of a defender. Grimaldo's more of a wing back, so you're going to play with the left back. Cucurella ended up being the guy. Lenormand and Laporte, the French converts who became Spanish. It's kind of funny, kind of annoying. But yep, they were the pair in the center back position, and then Nacho also came in. Carvajal at right back. This is a very solid back line, and it's very simple. The players know exactly what they're supposed to do. Your midfield fulcrum of Rodri and Fabian Ruiz, who Fabian Ruiz was very, very good this tournament. I think a lot of people don't see him much because he plays for PSG. He's in the French league. No one really watches the French league. They only see PSG in Champions League, and they've really underperformed as a team in that competition. So I think Fabian Ruiz really announced himself to people and showed just how good he and Rodri are together. Obviously, it was Pedri at the start. Then it becomes Olmo. I thought Spain ticked better with Olmo in the side rather than Pedri. This is not saying that Pedri is not a top player and maybe better than Olmo. It's just that it seemed to work. Morata as the 9, I know a lot of people criticize him for a lot of things, but he is a very simple cut and dry 9. He'll make runs into the channels. He'll try to come back and receive the ball and hold up play. It's what you basically want from a forward. Could he score more goals? Yes, I think he could be a little more dangerous at times, but he serves his purpose so well because there were a few times today, and I think it's the chance immediately after Spain took the lead at the beginning of the second half. There's a long ball to Morata, and he does a very good job of just getting it under control and shifting it to Carvajal, who then plays it inside. It gets flicked, goes to Nico Williams. He cuts back a little bit, plays it to Olmo, who then turns, spins John Stones, and his left foot finishes wide. But Morata is very important for that. And in some games, for instance, against France, you barely saw him. But in games where he comes alive, he brings the midfielders into play and moves defenses around, which is super useful. And then you have the wingers. And Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal are basically the pieces that make the playing style. You've got a back four. You've got those 3 midfielders. You could get weird and say, well, we want Olmo and Pedri. No. It was, we've got 2 wingers in Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, and they're playing. And you know what? They're so dynamic 1v1 that we are going to let them do what they do. And so the formation just makes itself. It's a 4-3-3. It has been all tournament. The rotations, people may talk about the genius of it, but there aren't really genius rotations. They're just top players who know where to be. Dani Olmo would get into the front line a lot. He did that today. A few times he sort of rotated in with the wingers, but for the most part, he would get into the front line, allow Morata to check in, or then he would come back. And it just, if the ball goes to feet and they're able to take care of it, they're going to move the other team around. And so this is what Spain were fantastic at all tournament. They're also fantastic at managing the games. And they win, and they deserve it. And it's an exciting group. Not a pre-tournament favorite for a lot of people. I actually had more faith in Germany going farther. I didn't have much faith in France because I was a little worried that they would be as stagnant as they were. I just hoped that they would score goals, and they didn't. But yeah, that's it. Spain win the Euros, and congratulations to them. We'll see what they can do over the next couple of years as they build towards the World Cup. Will they kick on because this is a young team? Are they going to strengthen in some areas because young team players are going to get older, they're going to get more experienced? You know, imagine with a player like Gavi coming into the side, maybe what's his name? Kubarsi, the young Barcelona center back he's going to be good. If he's fit and available when they get there, that's another piece. So Spain, keep an eye on this. This could be kind of a golden generation for Spain because they now have a title. Speaking of golden generations, just off the top of my head, I want to mention this term because a lot of people in the United States have talked about how there's a golden generation now here. People obviously spoke a lot about Belgium's. I don't think we should assign that term to a team just because of the potential to win something. I think that the golden generation tag needs to be given to teams that were golden, like Spain, 08, 2010, 2012. That's a golden generation. Also, not just the generational talent that they had all in one team, but they changed the game. They were outrageously successful, and that is a golden generation. You take a look at Belgium, people were still this tournament going, oh, the golden generation. It's like from when that term was created, there's only 3 guys left. So it's not. It's a different team. And the tag of golden generation seems to follow teams, especially if they don't win, rather than actually naming them golden generation if they do, right? I mean, I just think that's a fun little digression. People can argue about what a golden generation is and should be. It's a fun debate. So ask your friends. The Euros end. This has been a fantastic tournament. I've watched every single game. So thanks to my boss, Lasse at Fussballi, to allow me the enough time to do this. I would have loved to produce more videos, but I frankly botched it. I should have done slightly different formats. I wanted to do tactical breakdowns. They're really hard to do because of YouTube copyright restrictions. So I will try to make one about this, maybe. I don't know. The France-Spain one got denied 7 times, so that wasn't fun. But the Euros end. I want to kind of go through some best ofs and some duds and some disappointments. But off the top of my head, let's just think: who was the best manager? I like Luis de la Fuente as an option because he created a setup that was very, very easy for Spain. So as the winner, yes, he should get credit, but also there's very little ambiguity for the Spanish players, the fans. This was an easy team to get behind. I thought he was obviously manager of the tournament. Player of the tournament. This is a really tough one because, frankly, this is one of the things that people complained about the Euros. They said that it's not exciting enough because a lot of the big stars didn't show up. Like Kylian Mbappe just had a dud. France as a team were nowhere near as exciting as you wanted. England, you got Harry Kane scored 3 goals, but bad performances. Probably the best English player was Bukayo Saka over the course of the tournament, unless you say like Mark Guehi or John Stones or Jordan Pickford. So who else is out there as an option? Well, it's tough to pick a player of the tournament who didn't get past the quarterfinal. So Jamal Musiala kind of would be your pick as one of those players, but ended by Spain. So if we're going to go with just the semifinalists, I don't think anyone from the Netherlands really gets into that. They were not that impressive throughout the tournament. For me, it's got to be a Spanish player, and I would probably say Fabian Ruiz. So look, feel free to disagree with me or tell me where I got something wrong. I thought the 2 young wingers, Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, were great. But in terms of a player that really, really made a huge difference, I have to go with Fabian Ruiz as my Euro 2024 player of the tournament. Scored an absolutely fantastic goal against Croatia right after getting the assist. That got Spain rolling. He reminds me of Adrien Rabiot, but just slightly better on the ball because he can cover ground. He's such a big guy. He runs fast. He's very, very clever at picking up space, very difficult to dispossess. And for his contributions throughout the tournament, I thought he was excellent against France, right? I thought he was probably the main reason why France had so much trouble handling Spain. He was getting open all over the place. It wasn't so much Rodri. Lamine Yamal scored a wonder goal, didn't do a whole lot else, to be fair. I just thought that Fabian Ruiz in every match showed a certain level of class as a player that a lot of people probably hadn't seen or didn't recognize. So he gets my player of the tournament. Goal of the tournament. Well, Lamine Yamal against France has to be a top 3 contender for sure. Jude Bellingham, the bicycle kick. I mean, come on, like the timing of it, like it's a kid's dream to score that kind of goal. Everyone's dream to score that kind of goal. So I'd have to put that one in there. And then there's a bunch from the group stage that were good. I think Romania scored a couple really good goals. There was the Arda Güler strike. It's good stuff. But as we get later into the tournament where they really matter, those two, it's hard to think of another one that really jumps out. And I mean, that's maybe one of the other things in terms of great games with like a lot of goals. You think about 2018 Argentina versus France. You have two of the best goals in the tournament in the same game. That we didn't really get that, unfortunately, this time around. But all right, why don't we go sort of team of the tournament? I'm going to go Pickford in goal. I would have to say Danny Carvajal as the right back. I would probably go Marc Cucurella as the left back as well. I think that Mark Guehi was good. I would say William Saliba has to be in the team of the tournament because he was outstanding. Again, Fabian Ruiz and Rodri are probably your easy picks for holding midfielders. Danny Olmo. I mean, it's basically a Spain team. The two wingers. I don't know who your center forward would be. Maybe Morata because, again, he's had such a big impact for the winners. If you have any ideas of who you would think team of the tournament, let me know. I think it's kind of an interesting idea. Biggest disappointments for me, obviously, France and England. Mother's French, dad's English. I may say that 1,000 times. This is why my allegiances are tied up in those two countries. It is really tough to stomach the way both teams played throughout this Euro. I'd say for a lot of people, that's probably the biggest disappointment, is that two of the heavy hitters were just not really exciting to watch at all and really let us down as fans. As football fans, you want to see the top players really, really excel. It's great to see good and great players do well, but you want to see the stars deliver. And I think that is a disappointment for this Euro, is that a lot of them did not. So one thing I loved about the Euros, because it congruent with Copa America, so we'll have the final of that in a couple hours. One of the things about the Euros that I loved was just the overall vibe of the stadiums. There was a great atmosphere in all the games. You really could sense it. Copa America was very different. I went to go see Ecuador, Jamaica in Las Vegas, and it was probably 20% full, which is terrifying, especially with the World Cup coming in 2026. That's another discussion. But the Euros, the fans, the grounds, everything like that, excellent. But I'd say the officiating was really good in the Euros. It was very tough for players to buy really soft fouls. And I'm going to be honest, this is something that I want to be able to expect for the English Premier League and some of the other leagues in Europe. I get really sick and tired of the soft fouls that players know how to buy. One example would be a player has the ball, they're shielding a defender from coming in, they bump into them, they backwards sort of back up into them, fall over, and they get the call. Like every time. It's so frustrating. And in these Euros, it's been really, really great to see referees just not buying this garbage, right? The referees have been smart enough to say play on. And from the very first couple games of the tournament, teams realized you can't just chuck yourself to the floor. Refs aren't going to call it. If you chuck yourself to the floor and they don't call it, that's a turnover. That's the same thing as just giving the ball away. So you have to continue to play. If you watch Copa America, it's totally different. In some games, the amount of fouls that were awarded, they just annoyed teams, right? Sometimes it's very important to make calls to get control of the game. But you can also lose control of the game as a referee by making too many calls, by just annoying everybody and disrupting the game. And then the game just becomes foul, and then you've got the question of who gets a yellow card and who doesn't, and you get bogged down by it. I think these games in Copa America that had like 47 fouls, and then you got a game in the Euros that's got like 12 or something like that. It's, I think the Euros, the way it was officiated, fantastic. I think, yes, sure, there's a few decisions that maybe people won't agree with. If you were a hardcore fan of a team that got screwed over, I get it. But overall, if you could watch on a weekly basis Premier League matches and sometimes even Champions League matches where the referees get out of the way and let the players play, and they don't buy soft fouls, they just go ahead and say no, we're going with this. I think that would be I think that'd be great. So it's a really good example, if you will. What do we want to see from officials? I thought that was great at these Euros, and it made the games so compelling and fun to watch, especially in comparison to Copa America, as I said. So not a whole lot else to say at the moment. I'm gutted for England. It's really, it's tough for the players to have lost now two straight finals in this competition. But the way they played and sort of behaved and carried themselves in an attacking sense when they either had the lead 4 years ago or equalized this time was not good enough. It was not progressive enough. They dropped in, as we've seen all tournament, and they got hit for not knowing whether to press or whether to drop. And so they just allowed Spain to have space, and Spain carved them open in the end. So before we end this stream, because I actually have to go coach a game in a little bit here. I've got the 2017 kids I coach. I've got to go do one of their games right before Copa America starts. So just to end on England, I think Gareth Southgate might be sticking around. I don't think the FA want to get rid of him. It's going to come down to whether he wants to continue or not. The criticism is going to come. He's going to get props for making the substitutions, getting Cole Palmer on, right? Ollie Watkins and Cole Palmer in the semifinal. He'll get credit for that. But the way England reacted immediately after equalizing, when for the next 60 seconds, 2 minutes, it felt like the mood had changed, the fans were up, England were going to go and get the winner, and instead they dropped, allowed Spain to regain control of the game, allowed them to rebuild some confidence, and then England get beat. And it's just too much of we've seen this before. In almost every Gareth Southgate tournament, it feels like England fans have seen this before. So what's the pressure going to be like on Southgate to quit his job, to leave the post? Because it seems like the FA would want to keep him. Personally, I think it'd be a good time for some of these managers to move on. I think that about Didier Deschamps with France. I think it's time for a little bit of a mix, for a shakeup. Just, Zidane is the guy waiting in line. I don't see why he would not be a fantastic choice. Maybe a little bit more of a progressive mindset with how to play. Who would replace England? That's a tough call, but also Gareth Southgate was a replacement for Sam Allardyce, right? Sam Allardyce, in my opinion, unfairly got sacked about a week after getting the job and having only one game in charge. And then Southgate took over at that point, sort of interim, and kept the job and has had it till now. And I just think England fans would like to see something different, and I agree at this point. It's hard to argue with Southgate's record of going deep in tournaments. You can't, because he's gone deep in tournaments. But getting over the line is a different story. And the way I looked at France, for instance, once they went behind against Spain in the semifinal, France, they were not firing on all cylinders. None of the front line was scoring goals. So where's the confidence to go and really get back into the game? It doesn't exist. For England, everything was late heroics from the round of 16 on. There wasn't enough of a confidence that, okay, yes, we can come back, but we can also take over this game again and dominate, and especially against a good side like Spain. And I think that's disappointing for England fans, because you want to see the team able to do that. It looked like they couldn't. It looked like that was just impossible. And that's it. So Copa America final coming up tonight. Argentina, Colombia, it's going to be a great game. Maybe I'll do a live stream after that. I haven't decided yet. But hopefully make this a more common occurrence, because with live streaming, I did one once and had people being like, yo, we can't hear you, and I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. So for all of you who have joined, have stuck around, I really appreciate it. I will make a few videos over the next few days. I want to talk about the USA situation. I want to talk about a best and worst sort of the Euros, a recap of those in Copa America. I want to talk about Copa America and my experience with it and the World Cup coming in 2 years, because I'm genuinely concerned about some things there. Really worried about stadiums, attendances, the way things are managed. I think FIFA will do a better job, but I'm very worried about some things. So really looking forward to make a video on that. And to grow this community, for all of you who found me through my tactical breakdowns, that's one part of what I want to do. I just want to create a lot of content about this game. I'm an avid watcher. I watch way too much, so I need an outlet for it, and I'd love to tell you guys what I see, how I feel about things. and hopefully continue to grow this little community. So thanks so much for everyone for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed that Euro final. Sad for England, but congratulations to Spain. So everybody, thank you so much. This is Campfire Football. Take it easy. Enjoy your Copa America final and the rest of your Sunday.